Welcome to my channel USA Old Coins. If you've ever wondered if those old coins you have lying around could be worth a fortune, you're in the right place. In today's video, we're diving into some of the rarest US coins, revealing their jaw-dropping values that will leave you amazed. Stick with us till the end, you won't want to miss what these hidden treasures could be worth. Let's get started. Top 1. It all started one rainy afternoon when an old man named Robert was sorting through a dusty shoebox that had been tucked away in his attic for decades. Inside the box were old letters, black and white photos, and a large handful of coins that had long been forgotten. He wasn't looking for anything valuable. He was simply revisiting memories. But among those coins, something stood out. It was a bright, silver-colored quarter with a big old tree on the back. The tree branches twisted and reached out like arms, wide and bare, yet full of life. He turned the coin over and saw the familiar face of George Washington. The date read 1999, and just beside it was the small letter P. That one little coin was about to change everything. It was the United States of America Washington State quarter dollar, minted for the state of Connecticut, and it would soon reveal a secret worth a fortune. At first glance, the coin seemed ordinary. Just another quarter, silver in color, round, small, and light. But Robert had a feeling. Something about that coin was calling to him. It was in better condition than the others. Its shine hadn't faded. The details were sharper. He wiped it clean gently and examined the design. It showed a tree. But not just any tree, it was the Charter Oak, the legendary tree from Connecticut's history. The design was simple but powerful. The lines of the bark, the strength of the trunk, and the graceful branches were beautifully carved into the metal. Below the tree were the words Connecticut and the year 1788, the year the state joined the Union. At the bottom, it read the Charter Oak. But as he looked closer, something unusual caught his eye. The letters seemed to have a slight doubling. The outline of the tree's trunk appeared to have a shadow, just slightly to the side. The rim of the coin didn't look quite even. Robert was no expert, but he had a friend at the local coin shop who had once told him, "Always look closely. You never know what you'll find." So he did. He picked up a magnifying glass and held the coin under the lamp. That's when he saw it. The doubling was real. A double die error. The lettering, especially the word Connecticut, had faint doubling at the edges. The branches of the Charter Oak had extra lines, barely noticeable, but definitely there. His hands began to shake slightly. He remembered hearing stories of error coins being worth a lot of money. Could this be one of them? The coin had a mint mark P just under Washington's neck, which meant it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The weight was a perfect 5.67 grams, and the diameter was 24.26 millimeters, with a thickness of 1.75 millimeters. Like all quarters made after 1965, it was made of copper nickel clad, a copper core wrapped in a layer of nickel and copper alloy. It had that signature silver shine, but it wasn't made of silver. Still, its value didn't depend on precious metal. It depended on rarity, and Robert's coin was rare. The Connecticut quarter was part of the original 1999 release of the 50-state quarters program, which started that year and ran until 2008. Each coin represented one state and told a piece of its history. Connecticut's coin honored the Charter Oak, a historic symbol of American independence and defiance. According to legend, Connecticut's royal charter was hidden inside the hollow of this great oak tree to protect it from being seized by the British governor in 1687. The tree stood for courage, resistance, and the fight for freedom, but while millions of these quarters were made, only a small number had errors. And Robert's coin was one of the rarest, because the doubling was crisp, the strike was strong, and the surface was nearly flawless. He knew he had to get it checked, so he took it to a professional coin grader. The expert examined it closely, tested its weight in metal, and confirmed what Robert had hoped for. It was a true double die error. Not a fake. Not a damaged coin. A genuine minting mistake that made this quarter incredibly valuable. the Greater explained that error coins from the first year of the 50-state quarters program were especially sought after by collectors. Since Connecticut was the fifth coin released in the series, some early errors from the Philadelphia Mint had become legends in the collecting world. This particular error, with strong doubling on the tree and the letters, was one of the rarest types. Very few had ever been found, and those that were in near-perfect condition had sold for huge sums at auctions. Word spread quickly. Robert's coin was posted on collector forums, featured in coin magazines, and even talked about at a national numismatic conference. People were amazed at its detail and preservation. Despite being decades old, the coin looked almost untouched. The ridges on the edges were still sharp. The luster had not faded. And most importantly, the error was clear, verifiable, and dramatic enough to make it a showpiece. Robert began receiving offers. Some were in the thousands. Others were in the tens of thousands. But he waited. He wanted to make sure it went to the right buyer and at the right time. Eventually, he contacted a major auction house that specialized in rare U.S. coins. They agreed to feature it as one of the headline coins in an upcoming auction. When the night of the auction arrived, collectors from all over the country tuned in. The bidding started quickly. The price jumped higher and higher as coin experts recognized what was at stake. A 1999 P Connecticut quarter with a strong double die error, in exceptional condition, was almost unheard of. By the end of the night, the gavel came down, and Robert's quarter was sold. The final price was breathtaking. That small, ordinary-looking coin, found in a dusty shoebox, sold for $110,000. Yes, $110,000. All from a quarter that had been sitting in an attic for over 20 years. Robert smiled, not just because of the money, but because he had uncovered a piece of history, and now that piece would be treasured forever. This story comes from the channel Valuable Coins All World, where coins come to life, and everyday people discover extraordinary treasures. Keep looking through your coins, because the next rare find might be waiting right in your pocket. Top 2. On a cold winter evening in a small town, a young man named Daniel sat at his kitchen table sorting through a pile of loose change he had gathered over the years. It was a hobby he had picked up from his grandfather, who used to say, "Some coins are worth more than you think. Every coin has a story, and sometimes, a secret." Daniel wasn't expecting anything special. Just another handful of quarters, dimes, and nickels. But then, one coin caught his eye. It looked normal at first, silver in color like every other quarter, but something about the design made him pause. It showed a cow, a round wheel of cheese, and a tall ear of corn rising into the sky. At the bottom was the word Wisconsin, and beside it, the year 2004. He flipped it over and saw the familiar face of George Washington, along with the letter D under the motto, "In God We Trust." What Daniel didn't know yet was that this simple coin, the United States of America Washington State Quarter Dollar from Wisconsin, 2004 D, would lead him to an unbelievable discovery. The coin had a shine to it, even after all these years. It was made from a copper-nickel-clad composition, which means it had a solid copper core with outer layers of copper and nickel alloy. That gave it its bright silver color, a color that made the details pop under the light. Its diameter was 24.26 millimeters, with a thickness of 1.75 millimeters, and it weighed exactly 5.67 grams. These were all standard specifications for a modern quarter, but what wasn't standard was what Daniel saw next. Looking closer at the design, he noticed something strange about the ear of corn. It didn't look like the other Wisconsin quarters he had seen before. There was something unusual at the bottom of the corn. He turned the coin slightly, and his heart skipped a beat. There was a tiny, extra leaf sticking out where it shouldn't be. It was subtle, barely noticeable to someone not looking carefully, but once you saw it, you couldn't miss it. He remembered hearing about an error coin from Wisconsin, something about an extra leaf. Could this be one of them? Daniel quickly searched online and found exactly what he was looking for. The 2004 D Wisconsin quarter had a famous minting error involving the corn stalk. Some coins had what was known as an extra leaf, a small, unintended leaf that appeared on the left side of the corn near the base. There were two known types, the low leaf and the high leaf. Both were extremely rare, and both were worth a lot of money to collectors. He compared his coin to the images he found and realized he had something very special. His coin had the low leaf variety, a clear extra leaf sticking out below the other leaves of corn. The detail was perfect, and the coin was in great condition. His hands trembled as he placed the coin in a protective case. He couldn't believe it. A simple quarter, probably given as change from a store years ago, now had the potential to be worth thousands of dollars. He took it to a local coin dealer, who confirmed the find. The dealer's eyes widened the moment he saw the leaf. He nodded slowly and said, "You found one of the rarest state quarter errors ever made. This is the real deal." The coin was then sent to a professional grading service. After a detailed examination, it was officially graded and authenticated as a genuine 2004 Wisconsin quarter with the low leaf error. It received a high grade due to its clean surface, minimal wear, and sharp detail. The news spread quickly through the numismatic community. Collectors began to contact Daniel, offering thousands just for a chance to own the coin, but Daniel decided to take it to auction. And that's where the story took another turn. As the auction date approached, interest in the coin grew. Experts knew how rare the low leaf variety was. Only a limited number of them had ever been found, and most were already in the hands of private collectors. Very few were available for public sale, and even fewer were in such high condition. When the bidding began, it was fierce. Each offer was higher than the last, and the final bid left the entire room in awe. The coin sold for a breathtaking $75,000. Yes, $75,000. For a coin that once sat unnoticed in a jar of spare change. That tiny extra leaf, the result of a mistake at the Denver Mint, turned an ordinary quarter into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Daniel could hardly believe his luck. But more than the money, he was thrilled by the story, the mystery, and the magic of it all. He had found a rare piece of American minting history, hidden in plain sight. The Wisconsin quarter, with its unique agricultural theme, a cow representing dairy farming, a wheel of cheese symbolizing the state's famous cheese industry, and the ear of corn reflecting its farming heritage, was already a beautiful tribute to the state. But with the minting error, it became something truly legendary. It reminded everyone that even the smallest objects can carry incredible stories. That behind every coin is a journey, from the moment it's struck at the mint, to the hands it passes through, to the rare few that become valuable treasures. So, if you ever come across a 2004 Wisconsin quarter, don't rush to spend it. Look closely. Check the corn. That little leaf, that tiny mistake, could change your life. This unforgettable story was brought to you by Valuable Coins All World, where we reveal the hidden treasures found in everyday pockets, and turn spare change into stories worth thousands. Keep checking your coins, you never know what's waiting to be discovered. Top 3. One quiet morning, in a small town surrounded by forests and winding roads, an elderly woman named Grace decided to go through a forgotten drawer in her late husband's desk. Inside were faded letters, a pocket watch, some old photographs, and tucked inside a velvet pouch was a small pile of coins. They looked ordinary at first, but one caught her attention. It was shiny, smooth at the edges, and had a striking image on the back unlike any coin she had seen before. 3 tall sailing ships filled the reverse, and beneath them were the words Jamestown 1607 to 2007. The date read 2000, and under the portrait of George Washington on the front was a tiny letter D. She had no idea then, but that quarter, the United States of America Washington State quarter dollar for Virginia, minted in the year 2000 with the Denver Mint mark, was worth more than she ever imagined. The coin glistened under the light, its silver color reflecting every corner of the room. It was round and familiar in size, the same shape and weight as other quarters, but it felt special in her hand. It had a standard weight of 5.67 grams, a diameter of 24.26 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.75 millimeters. The composition was copper-nickel clad, with a solid copper core wrapped in a nickel alloy, giving it that brilliant, durable finish. But as she turned it over again, she noticed the details were almost too perfect: the ships, the sails, the text, all sharply carved and unusually bold. This Virginia quarter, released as part of the 50-state quarters program, was issued to honor the founding of Jamestown, the first permanent English settlement in America. The three ships featured Susan Constant, Godspeed, and Discovery, symbolize the journey that changed American history. The design was powerful, rich in detail, and deeply connected to the birth of the nation. But something about Grace's coin seemed different. She took a closer look, holding it under the sunlight pouring in through her kitchen window. The masts of the ship seemed to have extra lines, like shadows. The date 2000 looked thicker than normal. And the letters around the rim seemed to have a slight doubling. Could it be an error coin? She remembered her husband once mentioning that some quarters, especially those with mistakes from the mint, could be very valuable. She didn't know what to believe, but her curiosity was sparked. Grace took the coin to a local coin shop just to ask. The dealer looked at it under a loupe and raised his eyebrows. He immediately asked if she'd be willing to leave it for professional grading. According to him, what she had might be one of the rare double-die quarters, a mistake during the minting process that caused parts of the design to appear twice in slightly different positions. The coin was sent to a grading service, and when the results came back, it confirmed the dealer's suspicion. Grace's coin had a clear double-die error, visible especially on the sails of the ships, the letters in Virginia, and even around the rim where the words United States of America appeared. The surfaces were incredibly clean, with barely any signs of circulation. This was no ordinary coin. It was rare. It was real. And it was valuable. The D mint mark on the obverse indicated that the coin was minted in Denver. While millions of Virginia quarters were produced in both Philadelphia and Denver in the year 2000, very few with such a strong and noticeable doubling error had ever been documented from the Denver Mint. Most coins had gone unnoticed, spent and forgotten. But the few that were preserved, especially in high condition with visible errors, had become treasures in the world of coin collectors. Grace was stunned. The simple act of cleaning out a drawer had led to a moment that would change everything. Word about the coin spread among collectors, and soon, calls came in with offers, some in the thousands. But it wasn't just the error that made this coin valuable. It was its story, its condition, and its place in American coinage history. The Virginia quarter was already a beautiful piece, celebrating one of the most important events in American history. But with the double-die error, it became a piece of art and a piece of mystery combined. The image of the three ships on the coin was more than just a picture, it was a symbol of courage, of beginnings, and of the journeys people take in life. Grace felt a deep connection to it. After talking with her family, she agreed to put the coin up for auction, with the help of a major numismatic house that specialized in rare U.S. coinage. When the coin went to auction, the excitement was immediate. Collectors knew how rare it was. A 2000 D Virginia state quarter with a double-die error in high grade was a dream find. The bidding started strong and didn't stop. With every raise of the paddle, the room grew quieter. All eyes were on the coin. It was history in metal, and everyone wanted a piece of it, and then, the final bid came in. The gavel dropped. Grace's coin sold for an astonishing $100,000. Yes, $100,000. A quarter, once worth just 25 cents, now transformed into a life-changing discovery. What had started as a simple moment of organizing old memories became a story that would be told for generations. Now, that rare coin is part of a private collection, preserved forever as one of the finest examples of the Virginia state quarter with a minting error. Grace used the money to help her grandchildren with college, donate to causes her husband loved, and create something good from something unexpected, and all of this was possible because of a little coin that had waited in silence for years before being discovered. This inspiring story is brought to you by Valuable Coins All World, the channel where every coin has a story, and where everyday discoveries can lead to unforgettable moments. Keep checking your change. Look at the details. Because the next rare and valuable coin could be right there, waiting for you to notice it. Top 4. One sunny afternoon in a quiet neighborhood, a young boy named Ethan was helping his grandmother clean out the garage. Among the boxes of old magazines, dusty ornaments, and forgotten knickknacks, he found a metal tin full of coins. Most of them looked normal, like coins he'd seen 100 times before. But one quarter caught his attention. It sparkled even though it was old, and the image on the back was unlike anything he had seen before. It wasn't just an eagle or some simple pattern. It showed a grand bathhouse with water flowing out of a fountain, a detailed entrance, and leafy branches on both sides. He flipped it over and saw the face of George Washington, along with the year 2010 and the tiny letter P just under the word "In God We Trust." Little did Ethan know, this small coin was a rare treasure, the United States of America Washington State $quarter for Hot Springs National Park, minted in 2010 at the Philadelphia Mint. The coin looked clean and well-kept, even after all these years. Its bright silver color made every detail stand out: the carved fountain, the symmetrical windows, the elegant doors of the bathhouse. The quarter had the standard round shape and familiar weight of 5.67 grams. It measured 24.26 millimeters in diameter and had a thickness of 1.75 millimeters. Its composition was copper-nickel clad, an inner core made of pure copper and an outer layer of a copper-nickel alloy, giving it that long-lasting shine. Ethan didn't know it yet, but the coin in his hand was not just beautiful. It was rare. It had a secret. His grandmother looked over and smiled. "That's from the America the Beautiful series," she said. "Your grandfather used to collect those." She handed him a magnifying glass and told him to look closely. Ethan stared at the coin again. Something felt off, but in a special way. The edges of the design seemed to have a ghost image behind them, almost like the coin had been struck more than once. The windows on the bathhouse had a shadow. The words Hot Springs looked slightly thicker. There was something special here. They decided to take the coin to a nearby coin shop, just to find out more. The shop owner, an older gentleman with decades of experience, examined the coin carefully. After a moment of silence, he looked up with a serious expression. "This is no ordinary quarter," he said. "You have a double die error here. That's a rare one." Double die errors happen during the minting process when the die that stamps the coin has a slight misalignment, causing parts of the design to appear twice. These errors are not only rare, but they're also incredibly valuable, especially when they occur in the early years of a new coin series. And the Hot Springs quarter was the very first coin released in the America the Beautiful series. That made it extra special. The expert continued explaining how very few 2010p Hot Springs quarters were known to have strong double die errors. Some collectors spent years looking through rolls of coins hoping to find just one. But Ethan had found his in an old tin, almost by accident. The doubling on his coin was especially clear on the doors and lettering, and the coin was still in excellent condition with full luster and no major scratches. The coin was soon sent to a professional grading service, where it was confirmed as a genuine double die error and given a high grade. This meant the coin was not only rare because of the error, but also valuable due to how well it had been preserved. Ethan and his grandmother couldn't believe the news. What had started as a simple garage cleanup turned into something far more exciting. Collectors began reaching out. Some offered thousands of dollars immediately, hoping to secure the rare error before it was widely known. But Ethan's grandmother wanted to wait. She knew something this rare deserved more attention. They decided to list the coin in an upcoming coin auction, known for showcasing some of the rarest and most sought-after U.S. coins in the world. As the auction date neared, more and more coin collectors began talking about the discovery. Photos of the coin spread across online forums, and experts praised the quality of the strike, the strength of the doubling, and the historical importance of the Hot Springs design. After all, Hot Springs National Park in Arkansas is the oldest federal reserve in the U.S., protected even before Yellowstone. The park's hot springs have been used for healing and bathing for hundreds of years, and the coin honored that legacy in the most beautiful way. When the day of the auction arrived, people watched from across the country. The bidding started strong and rose quickly. Collectors knew exactly what they were bidding on, a rare, early series error coin in nearly perfect condition. The final bid was more than anyone had expected. That small 2010p Hot Springs quarter, once forgotten in a tin, sold for an amazing $60,000. Yes, $60,000. For a coin that most people wouldn't even glance at twice. Ethan and his grandmother were in shock, not just from the money, but from the magic of the moment. They had found history. They had found art. And they had found a story they would tell forever. Today, that coin sits in a private collection, protected and cherished, not just for its rarity, but for the incredible story behind it. It reminds everyone that treasures are still out there, waiting to be discovered. All it takes is a careful eye, a little curiosity, and sometimes, a bit of luck. This unforgettable story is brought to you by Valuable Coins All World, the channel that brings the hidden world of coins into the spotlight. Keep checking your pockets, your jars, your drawers, because the next rare and valuable coin could be right in your hands. Top 5. One breezy spring afternoon in a small town filled with farms and quiet streets, a man named Samuel sat at his kitchen table sipping coffee while sorting through a jar of coins he had collected over the years. It was something he did often, mostly out of habit. He'd always loved coins, especially the ones that looked different or had a little bit of history behind them. As he picked through the nickels and dimes, he spotted a quarter that looked newer than the rest. Its shine caught his eye. He held it up to the light, turned it around slowly, and immediately noticed something very different about it. On the back of the coin, instead of an eagle or a state symbol, was an image of a farmhouse, a water pump, and 2 hands of corn. It was unlike anything he had seen before. It read Homestead, and the date at the bottom was 2015. Right away, he knew this wasn't just another coin. It was a United States of America Washington state $quarter, and on the front was the familiar face of George Washington with the small letter P underneath, meaning it was minted in Philadelphia. The coin was smooth and shiny with its silver color standing out against the others in the jar. It had the standard weight of 5.67 grams, a diameter of 24.26 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.75 millimeters. Its round shape was familiar, but its design was far from ordinary. The composition was copper-nickel clad, which meant it had a core of pure copper covered by a strong outer layer made from a mix of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This not only gave it its durability and shine but also helped protect the design over time. The design on the reverse side of the coin, what some call the tail side, featured a wooden home with a single-paned window, 2 strong stalks of corn leaning from both sides, and an old-style water pump in the center. It represented the Homestead National Monument of America in Nebraska, a place that tells the story of the Homestead Act of 1862. This law gave land to people who were willing to settle and farm on it. It symbolized the hard work and dream of a new life for many families who helped build the country, but what made Samuel's coin different was something that most people wouldn't even notice. When he looked closely at the water pump, he noticed something strange. The lines near the base of the pump didn't look normal. They had a ghostly appearance, like shadows or double impressions. The corn leaves seemed to have extra lines too, barely visible, but clearly there when viewed under the light. Could this be a mint error? Curious, he got a magnifying glass and looked even closer. The word Homestead appeared slightly thicker, and the window frame looked like it had a second outline. Samuel's heart started to beat faster. He had heard about coins with double die errors, where the coin design appears twice because of a misalignment during the minting process. These kinds of errors were rare and extremely valuable. He couldn't be sure, but his coin seemed to have that very same doubling. He visited a coin dealer in town who took one look and said, "You might be onto something here." The dealer inspected the coin under bright lights and a high-powered magnifier. After a few minutes of silence, the dealer confirmed what Samuel had hoped for. The coin was a genuine double die error, and it was very rare. Not only did the doubling affect the water pump and the window, but even the lettering around the coin had minor doubling, clear signs that this was a unique piece. Samuel's coin was then sent for professional grading. where experts confirmed it was a 2015 Homestead quarter with a rare and desirable double die error. Because it came from the Philadelphia Mint and was in such well-preserved condition, the coin received a high grade, making it even more valuable to collectors. Soon, Samuel began getting calls from collectors and coin enthusiasts. Some offered a few $1,000s, others wanted to see the coin in person. What amazed everyone was that the error was so clearly visible, yet so few people had ever noticed these differences before. This made the coin part of a small and exclusive group of known Homestead error coins. Even more interesting was that some Homestead quarters were also found with snow-like die chips in the roof of the house, or extra windows that looked like tiny rectangles above the main one. These were small errors caused by wear in the dies that struck the coins. Samuel's coin, however, didn't just have die chips, it had real doubling, the kind that's almost always the result of a mistake during the hubbing process. When the die itself is created. As news of the coin spread, collectors and auction houses grew more interested. Samuel was invited to display his coin at a regional coin expo, where experts and hobbyists alike admired the coin's sharpness, its clear doubling, and the near-perfect condition of its surfaces. It had no heavy scratches, no wear that dulled its features, and its original luster was still intact. He finally decided to auction the coin through a trusted numismatic auction house. When the day of the auction arrived, collectors from around the world tuned in. Everyone knew how rare it was to find a 2015 Homestead quarter with such bold doubling and such high grade. Bidding started strong and rose quickly. The room buzzed with energy, and soon, the price climbed higher than anyone had expected. When the final bid was called and the auctioneer's gavel struck the podium, Samuel's coin had sold for an incredible $45,000. Yes, $45,000, for a quarter that he found in a jar of spare change at his kitchen table. That coin now lives in a collector's vault, carefully preserved as one of the best-known examples of a Homestead double die error. For Samuel, it was not just about the money. It was about the story, the adventure, and the chance discovery that turned a normal day into one he would remember for the rest of his life. This amazing and unforgettable coin story is brought to you by Valuable Coins All World, the channel that uncovers the rarest treasures hiding in everyday places. Keep checking your change. Keep searching. Because the next coin worth thousands could be right in your hands right now.